Thank you. Good morning. Again, I'm Peter Elder, Director General, Director of Nuclear Cycle and Facilities Regulation. This portion, we also joined by Mr. Michael Rinker, Director of the Nuclear Processing Facilities Division, and as well we have Mr. Robert Burr, who's the Project Officer responsible for the GE Hitachi license. Again, we have staff available both here in Toronto and joining us via teleconference from Ottawa. We're here to present the performance of the GE Hitachi Nuclear Energy Canada's facilities located in Toronto and in Peterborough. GE Hitachi's performance has been independently verified by the CNSC and by the Ontario Ministry of Environment. After more than 50 years of nuclear operations, our conclusion remains that the facility is safe for both the people of Toronto and the environment. I will now pass the presentation over to Mr. Rinker.
Good morning, Mr. President and members of the Commission. My name is Michael Rinker, and I am the Director of the Nuclear Processing Facilities Division. I will present to you the performance of the GE Hitachi Nuclear Energy Canada, or GE Hitachi, facilities located in Toronto and in Peterborough. The presentation will focus on the performance of GE Hitachi in 2012 and also provide additional information regarding the Toronto facility in order to respond to recent public interest and concern. The presentation will describe GE Hitachi's updated public information and disclosure program, and finally, we will present CNSC staff's findings regarding uranium levels in soils at the facility and also in the local neighborhoods. GE Hitachi is a Canadian company that operates 2 Ontario sites under one CNSC license. One site is in Toronto, the other site is in Peterborough. GE Hitachi manufactures nuclear fuel bundles from uranium dioxide powder. The company makes fuel bundles exclusively for Canadian nuclear power plants. The Peterborough facility is located on a part of a larger industrial site that belongs to General Electric Canada within the municipality of Peterborough. It has been located there since 1955. The Peterborough facility takes uranium dioxide pellets fabricated in Toronto and assembles them into CANDU reactor fuel bundles. In addition, GE Hitachi Peterborough has a nuclear services and design business, which includes work associated with receiving, repairing, and modifying contaminated equipment from off-site nuclear facilities. There have been no changes to the operations at GE Hitachi Peterborough facility in 2012 that would affect the safety systems of the facility. The Peterborough facility has performed satisfactorily in all safety and control areas, except for environmental protection, where its performance is rated as fully satisfactory. In 2012, the facility has had no reportable events, no regulatory action level exceedances, and no lost time incidents. GE has been located in Toronto's Davenport area since the construction of the first building in 1905. At that time, GE's buildings were located in an industrial area conveniently located close to a major rail line, as shown in the picture on the left side of this slide. The Toronto facility produces uranium dioxide powder into ceramic pellets. The majority of these pellets are shipped to their Peterborough facility and assembled into CANDU reactor fuel bundles, while the rest are sent to the U.S. fuel manufacturing facility in Wilmington, North Carolina. In 1955, GE Hitachi started its nuclear fuel operations in Toronto. Over GE Hitachi's 50-plus years of operation, much of the industrial area transitioned from an industrial area to residential properties. As such, the GE Hitachi Toronto facility is now surrounded by residential homes. The current facility is shown on the right side of this slide. Notwithstanding, the CNSC provides regulatory oversight to ensure its operations remain safe, thus ensuring that the public and the environment are safe. There were no changes to the operations of the Toronto facility that would affect the safety of the facility. For 2012, CNSC staff rated 13 of the 14 safety and control areas as satisfactory, while the environmental protection safety and control area was rated as fully satisfactory. In 2012, there was one action level exceedance related to radiation protection. A worker at the GE Hitachi Toronto facility received an annual extremity dose that exceeded the extremity dose action level, but was below the regulatory dose limit and well within doses that are known to cause observable health effects. There was one lost time incident resulting from a trip and fall when our operator was working in the facility. And finally, GE Hitachi has strengthened its public information and disclosure program in 2012, as discussed in my next slide. In 2012, the CNSC published a new regulatory document, RD 99.3, on public information and disclosure. Its publication coincided with a heightened level of public concern regarding GE's Toronto facility. Accordingly, GE Hitachi was required to undertake several new initiatives to inform residents about its nuclear activities. GE Hitachi has committed to establishing a community liaison committee, distributing an annual newsletter to residents, holding an annual open house, and it has improved its website. CNSC staff have required GE Hitachi to provide quarterly updates on its activities and will continue to closely monitor the implementation of this program. Releases of uranium from the Toronto and the Peterborough facilities into the environment continue to be controlled and monitored to ensure compliance with the conditions of their license. GE Hitachi controls and monitors emissions from their stacks. To ensure that the public is protected from air emissions, the air is also monitored at the boundary of the facility. And finally, for verification that emissions are low, GE Hitachi conducts soil sampling at its Toronto facility as part of its environmental monitoring program. In addition, wastewater from the GE Hitachi facilities is collected, filtered, and sampled prior to its discharge to the sanitary sewer. In 2012, all releases from the GE Hitachi facility were well below the license limits. A decrease in uranium emissions to the sewer has occurred at the Toronto facility due to changes in the wastewater mixing and treatment process. Air emissions and environmental monitoring results are provided in the following slides. GE Hitachi's Toronto and Peterborough facilities perform continuous in-stack sampling to ensure emissions remain within their applicable license limits. The emission limits are based on a 0.05 millisievert per year public dose. This is 20 times lower than the prescribed regulatory public dose limit of 1 millisievert per year. In 2012, emissions remained well below the license limits for both facilities. The emissions from the Peterborough facility are so low they cannot be discerned from zero on this graph. The results demonstrate that air emissions are being controlled effectively at the Toronto and the Peterborough facilities. Air is monitored at the locations shown with red dots around the Toronto facility using high-volume air samplers. The high-volume air samplers are at fixed locations. The locations of the samplers were chosen based on the direction of the prevailing winds. Air filters are collected weekly by GE Hitachi and sent to a qualified third party, McMaster University, to measure the quantity of uranium collected in the filter. The results from the high-volume air samplers show that the average concentration of uranium in ambient air measured around the facility in 2012 was 0.001 micrograms per cubic meter. The MOE has developed a new standard for uranium in air. This standard will become effective in 2016, but is provided here for comparison to GE Hitachi's monitoring results. As shown on this slide, the monitoring results for the GE Hitachi Toronto facility are about 30 times lower than the MOE's new standard for uranium in air. The Canadian Council of Ministers of the Environment, or the CCME, provide guidelines for soil quality which include levels for uranium in soil. The guidelines are dependent on land use. The area shaded in red is the Toronto facility. This area is bounded on the north by the security gate and Building 9, on the east and west by security fence, and this area has a CCME guideline value of 300 micrograms per gram because it is classified as industrial land use. The area shaded in yellow is the rail line and is bounded on the north by a security fence. This yellow area has a CCME guideline of 33 micrograms per gram because it is classified as commercial use. All other areas are considered residential or park land use and have a CCME guideline of 23 micrograms per gram. Should any results exceed these guidelines, an investigation would be conducted and the results submitted to the CNSC. GE Hitachi conducts annual soil monitoring in areas that would provide the best locations for observing releases of uranium from the facility. Values have remained relatively stable and within the Ontario typical ranges for uranium and significantly lower than the CCME soil quality guideline value for residential parkland use. Samples are taken from 49 locations annually around the facility and analyzed for uranium content. The average concentration of uranium in soil in 2012 was 1.9 micrograms per gram. The maximum concentration of uranium in soil in 2012 was 10.8 micrograms per gram. The higher values observed occur along the rail line located immediately adjacent to the facility. All values in 2012 are below the CCME soil quality guidelines for uranium of 23 micrograms per gram for residential and parkland use. The high values along the rail line have been investigated and are attributed to a past practice of cleaning and washing in the parking lot and not to emissions to air. In June 2013, the CNSC performed verification monitoring of GE Hitachi's soil monitoring program. This program involved CNSC staff accompanying GE staff during monitoring and randomly selecting samples for confirmatory analysis at the CNSC laboratory in Ottawa. The results of CNSC's verification are provided in the table, and the values are colored according to the relevant CCME criteria. Yellow indicates a criteria of 33 micrograms per gram, and no shading or white indicates a criteria of 23 micrograms per gram. Very good agreement was obtained with which verified GE Hitachi's capacity to monitor their surroundings. Only one sample exhibited an important difference. Sample location number 16. This location is on the fence line along the rail line in an area of known contamination. The CNSC staff make the following points in summary of the verification activities of GE Hitachi's soil monitoring program. First, there was close agreement of GE Hitachi results. Second, the highest uranium values occur on commercial property, the rail line. All other locations away from the rail line are at or near background values. And finally, uranium emissions from the GE Hitachi facility are not posing a health risk. The CNSC also accompanied the Ontario Ministry of Environment in a program to sample and analyze soils in the residential parkland area surrounding the Toronto facility. The purpose of this exercise was to provide local residents with scientifically defensible information about the state of their environment in which they live. 24 locations around the GE Hitachi facility were selected and 164 samples were analyzed by the MOE and separately by the CNSC laboratory in Ottawa. The CNSC results ranged from 0.3 to 2.9 micrograms per gram uranium. These values are approximately 10 times lower than the CCME guideline for uranium in soil, and all but 2 samples are within the typical ranges found in Ontario. The 2 values above background were both below 3 micrograms per gram, again, well below the CCME criterion of 23 micrograms per gram for residential parkland use. After much study by the MOE and the CNSC, we conclude the following. Uranium concentrations in soil around the GE Hitachi facility in Toronto are well below criterion for the protection of people and the environment. The public living near the Toronto facility are safe from GE Hitachi activities after 50-plus years of operation. Uranium emissions from the GE Hitachi facility do not pose a health risk. And fourth, the CNSC has routinely conducted regulatory activities to ensure the protection of the public and the environment, and we will continue to do so.
That concludes the presentation.